What makes your life your life? And what does it take to live it? I dedicate myself to help people live meaningful and happy lives. And I never run out of work because people are not happy. Why? Remember the booklet you had as a kid, Connect the Dots, where you had to draw lines from 1 to 2 to 3, and eventually everyone got the same characterless man? Today, as adults, we're playing the advanced booklet. Only now, instead of connecting numbers, we draw our timeline between the expected life achievements. So we've created a life in the "this is how it should be done" version of it. Just tick all the right boxes and sure, you'll get something. What's the problem? 50% of the students complain that their studies were a waste of time. Almost 40% of people sitting here feel that they don't have the right work-life balance. They feel overworked. And almost 73% of people don't even like their job. The data goes on, and it implies that the same template isn't going to work for everyone. I'm assuming, in fact, that some of you sitting here today feel that your life is not your own life. So yeah, we're unhappy. But what if we leave the booklet and we just start drawing? It will never be the same painting. So what does it take to build your life? I believe that more than anything, it takes courage. Courage is the trait because it allows all other good qualities to be revealed. It takes courage to look deeply into the life we have created. It takes courage to take a step and try something new. And it takes courage to learn from our actions. Today, I would like to suggest a framework that will help you tailor a life that suits you. And it has 3 steps. 1, the courage to introspect. 2, the courage to act. And 3, the courage to measure what happened. So let's start with the courage to introspect. Introspection means looking inside. And imagine you would find a tape. It has a label, My Life. You can watch everything, every decision, every conversation. Will you press play? Well, if you do, you might face some difficult insights. But if you don't, you might find yourself years later standing in the wrong place, confused. So observing your life requires courage. But it's a necessary step to build our own path. So take a moment and think about your life's 3 most important goals. How much time have you spent working towards them this week? Or, as Richard Feynman, the American physicist, put it, you must not fool yourself, but you are, in fact, the easiest person to fool. So how can we observe and introspect wisely? Some of the greatest findings about well-being come from studies where they don't rely on what people report, but instead they sample their experience in real time. So not how people think they feel, but how do they actually feel. For instance, Professor Daniel Kahneman asked people, what elicits happiness? To which they replied, my children. But then he asked them in real time, when they were actually with their kids. And that's how it turned out that being with your children was the day's peak of suffering. And now it's well established that what we think that makes us happy is not what makes us happy when we are actually living our lives. So what if you apply this? Instead of scheduling endless meetings, stop in real time and ask yourself, is this worthy of my time? When we observe our life, we might see, is there anything you wish to edit in your tape? So congratulations, now you're aware. Your psychologist might love it. But be careful, because awareness is a dangerous trap. It gives us a sense that we are already changing. And here comes the second phase, to build your life. Will you have the courage to act, move, experiment? Because being a life entrepreneur means committing to actual steps. And small steps are great too. So try a new hobby, or find the courage to be the dumbest guy in the room. The courage to quit, the courage to tell the truth, the courage to face fear gradually. I'm fortunate to witness such moves every day in my work. My client, Dan, he realized that connection, real connection with his children, is his life's most important goal. And kissing them only after they go to sleep, that wasn't enough. So a month ago, he dropped to a 4-day work week. Another client, Gabby, realized that new places and new communities make him feel alive. So he found the guts to move to a different city every 3 years. And Sarah, she felt lonely at the age of 65. And now she's busy initiating new friendships. So how can you apply deep insights into everyday life? Lately, I felt that my life became too heavy. My second daughter was born in lockdown after a whole year where the world got crazy, and me too. And I heard the sound of myself speaking about how complicated it is to be a parent these days. And I thought, gee, here's another worn-out parent. So I developed this internal hashtag, a hashtag like the ones on social media. I call it Experience Life to the Fullest. So for example, when I'm at the beach and I wonder, should I snorkel or should I not snorkel? Because if I'll go in, my hair will be wet and I'll have a lot of salt in my eyes. And just walking around in a bikini, do you also find that challenging? Yes. Definitely, right? And then I'll have to take a shower and I'll still find sand in places where human beings do not love sand. So I remind myself, experience life to the fullest. And a moment later, I'm in the sea. I'm swimming, beautiful fish are surrounding me, and it feels like being alive. Or when I'm invited to a party where I don't know anyone, and I'm afraid that I'll stand there like this outsider, having to pretend that I'm texting someone intensively just to look busy, or taking long journeys to the bowl of chips and then going back to my corner. I remind myself, remember, experience life to the fullest, and I never regret it. So think of a step, one step, that you can do in order to bring the life that you believe that is yours closer. Maybe it's something you can do this week in order to proceed to what is important to you. So after you'll find the courage to act in order to build your life, you will need the courage to measure what happened. When we experience something new, the way we see the world changes. We've learned something. So what were the results of your experiment? What will you decide to do next? To measure whether we achieved what we planned to, if it was worth it, allows criticism in. And we are the worst critics of ourselves. And it's a vulnerable position that, again, requires courage. maybe you'll conclude that one of your commitments is not leading you anywhere, and you should quit it in order to move on. No one dreams of being the person who went on a journey around the globe and came back after a week. But sometimes that's what it takes, and we need to start again. Why is it okay to think and consider every step in advance, but so difficult to reconsider it in the process? Why do we let external constraints like the contract termination date, the impression my resume does, or what other people will think determine how we will proceed? So take a moment to think, is it about time to quit the unnecessary? So, courage to introspect, courage to act, and courage to measure. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, courage? I don't do courage. I watch courage on Netflix. But I said courage and not bravery. Being brave means confronting something without any fear. It's effortless, well, if you have it. It's not a state of mind. It's a quality you just have. But courage is a whole different story. Courage is about confronting something despite fear. It's a choice to act despite all the reasons not to. For me, courage means standing here today. Thank you. Thank you. So, courage is a decision by definition, and that means you all have it. And I know what you're thinking now. You're thinking, I don't have courage, and I don't have that other thing you're talking about. And the truth is that there's a designated button for courage in your brain, just like there's a button for fear. It's already built in the machine. One of my favorite studies examined how our brain copes with fear. It's a study done by the Weizmann Institute of Science, and they invited subjects into an MRI machine, and imagine you're participating. And behind their head stood a cart, and inside it, a real snake, a giant snake. The subject has a remote control with two possible buttons: bring Snakey closer and keep Snakey away. Their goal was to bring Snakey closer. Now, you're frightened by the mere thought of a snake behind your head. In the brains of all subjects, the amygdala, the area responsible for fear, was very active. But every time subjects brought Snakey, they called him Snakey, a bit closer, another area in the brain's frontal lobe turned on. This was, in fact, the courage center. And the most amazing finding, that every time participants overcame their fear and brought Snakey closer in spite of it, the courage center reacted even stronger, and the feeling of fear weakened. We all have a Snakey. What will they think of me? Ask someone out? Quit smoking? Confront my boss? And we too have the ability to bring Snakey closer. We just have to practice pressing, and incremental steps will make us feel capable. It's a paradox. Dealing with fear means bringing it closer. So what does it take to live your life, your authentic life? It seems like fear is part of the deal, but it's much more frightening and painful to reach the end of our days and look back and ask, did I experience this as an outsider? Did I just tick all the boxes, wondering whether I should act but never jumping in? You can pause and observe life as it happens. You can take a step towards what is important to you. And you can measure the results and learn something. And maybe you'll find sand in weird places, but at the end of the day, you'll hold your painting and you will be sure, I was the one who drew it. Thank you.